cannot bend beside his grave, for he sleeps in a secret sea, and not one gentle whispering wave will tell the place to me. But though unseen by human eyes, and mortals know it not, his Father knoweth where he lies, and angels guard the spot.
The dawning light is breaking now, as she wakes to find him gone, and hears the tolling of the bell and the swirling seagull's song. To the harbour fast she runs, down to the cold quayside, to find his is the only boat to take the turning tide.
Come follow me. Come follow me.
Come follow me. Come follow me.
Come follow me. Ready, steady, go! The choristers' pancake race starts here.
Every year they used to hold a choristers' pancake race around the square. So we've given them a starting line, and we've also given them a finishing line at the other end.
"300 butts of blubber, 1 bear, 3 walrus, 8 whales, wool, wine, wheat, whale oil, steel, flax, emigrants, brown plantation sugar, biomass, bay salt, barley." At the riverhead, an impish figure squats, poised on the hitching rail by the stocks, spilling charisma, hinting at menace, oozing ambition and worldliness. Its stubble-faced is marked with a smirk, stained with decay and disdain, that he spits at a horseshit pile that sizzles back in scorn. Then he drops from the dock to the barge below, bound for Humber, Trent and Ouse, with a cargo of barley and salt.
The men who gather on the dock do shake their heads and say, "It is a brave and foolish man who takes to see this day." It ebbs and flows as the bell it tolls, and the sailor's time must bide. But those in need and take no heed must face the hungry tide.
Here we have a haven for the boats, and yonder swim the fish, and inland are the towns that need them.
I'd swim across to the far side when the peanuts barge was in and fill up a tin, then swim back.
She rides the surf onto the ocean swell, her crimson sail lost in the fret, and the howling gale from her. The waves they crash on Molly's bow, the wind howls in the rigging as he trims the sail and sets.
Denmark, 528 miles as the Raven flies.
The Legend of Grimm. Once there ruled a great and virtuous King of England, Athwold, who died without a successor. He left his daughter Goldborough to the care of Godrich, Earl of Cornwall, who was instructed to watch over her and eventually marry her to the highest man in the kingdom. However, he betrayed the late king and imprisoned her in a tower. Across the sea in Denmark, there too was a virtuous king, Bergaben, who died and left behind his son and heir Havelok. But a treacherous agent, Goddard, gave Havelok to a fisherman to be drowned in the sea. The fisherman was called Grimm. He saw in Havelok miraculous signs that proved the child was the rightful heir to the throne. Grimm fled with Havelok across the sea, landing on the estuary of the River Humber and founding the town of Grimsby. There he raised the boy, who went on to grow to an extraordinary size. Godrich, Earl of Cornwall, noticing Havelok's unusual size and believing him to be nothing but a peasant, decided to marry him to King Athelwold's daughter, Goldborough, fulfilling his promise to the late king of marrying her to the highest man in the kingdom. But soon both Havelok and Goldborough were given visions of the future, in which Havelok is both King of England and Denmark. Together they sailed across the sea and conquered Denmark, before invading England and slaying Godrich in a battle. As the rightful king of Denmark and England, Havelok ruled for more than 60 years.
For he commandeth and raiseth a stormy wind, which lifteth the waves thereof. They mount up to the heaven.
And 5 days more to see the boats come in to land their catch, but not the Molly G. She fears the sea fret's rising, the crimson sail to hide. She listens for the bell to ring at the turning of the tide.
So we've now got to the Labyrinth, and through consultation with the Minster and the public, it was felt that a labyrinth or a maze would be a really interesting idea to put in here. With a labyrinth you can't get lost, you can't meet a dead end, and in a maze you will meet a dead end, and it's more of a puzzle. Where a labyrinth is a process of meditation, and you walk the labyrinth and you think about whatever you want to think about, and then you'll always enter at the centre.
Whispering winds whip the sea's eastern shore. The tower above stands still, gazing upon the infinite individuals below within the concrete maze. This city speaks to me. It utters thousands of voices simultaneously, some unfamiliar to me. All keep the labyrinth in mind, each voice different, each voice similar in its journey to conquer the labyrinth. I too share the same goal, but in the labyrinth, most don't know what I know.
A community of rather special character.
I sit on a bench. Guess where? I bet you can't. It's in a secluded place, somewhere in Grimsby. The pigeons coo, the people chat, the pubs are opening. There's a real atmosphere here. All kinds of people on the street. Grebos, goths, idlers, children and students, and the regeneration of the town centre. Grimsby isn't everyone's cup of tea, but for me, it's home.
She waits for him, and 5 days more to see the boats come in to land their catch, but not the Molly
Now a monument to bygone days of brave men who trawled the seas, kept food on the table in times of peace and in times of war. To the same brave men who gave their boats and many their lives, saving lives in the dangerous and vital mine-sweeping operations based in our town during both World Wars.
It was a story that I've always known about. My great-grandfather had sadly was lost at sea. It was near the end of the Second World War and he was on a trawler which hit a mine, and unfortunately all 10 men on board perished.
My grandfather, Robert Bewley, was an orphan. He was taken into Birkenhead Union School when he was 6 years old. He stayed there until he was 14, and then he was apprenticed to be apprenticed for the fishing industry in Grimsby. When he was 30, he married my grandmother. They had 9 children, and I never met him because I was born 3 years after he was killed. But my mum always said he was a gentleman. He stuttered. And a good father as far as she could tell me.
I mean, it's always been a huge part of my mum's side of the family, with her being from Grimsby.
I think fishing heritage does hold the family together, without a doubt.
The crimson sail to hide. She listens for the bell to ring at the turning of the tide. It ebbs and flows as the bell it tolls its message far and wide. But still she waits by the quayside gate to greet the
Archer.
Archer. Archer.
Archer. Got any goodies? Rose was my great nana. I loved visiting my nana. She was unlike any other nana or grandma I knew. My friends' elderly female relatives were gentle and warm. My nana Rose gambled on horses, swore, and she was forthright. Put kettle on. Get a biscuit. Take this to the bookies. Her mottled shins indicated the weather outside and demonstrated how close she'd been to the electric fire. I was put to work buying cigarettes, putting bets on, and getting anything else that was needed. Victor Street was not without its challenges. White dog poo punctuated the pavement and broken glass bottles punctuated the hopscotch grids. Elderly adults in pinnies stood outside drinking tea and smoking, passing the time of day, always eager to give a small child a nudge in the right direction with well-chosen advice. The corner shop shuts at 5. Stop doing that on your bike, you'll kill your son. Mind that shit. Where are you going? Does your mum know you're out? I know who your dad is, of a well-used phrase that could be heard up and down the street in an effort to keep the kids in line.
Hopscotch began in ancient Britain during the early Roman Empire. The original hopscotch courts were over 100 feet long and used for military training exercises. Roman foot soldiers ran the course in full armour and field packs to improve their footwork. Roman children drew their own smaller courts in imitation of the soldiers, adding a scoring system. In the St James Square hopscotch court, you jump through time in a hopscotch of dates that tells the history of Grimsby.
1. 2.
1201. Grimsby receives a royal charter.
3.
1193. The first record of Grimsby as a surname.
4.
1464. You cannot be arrested in a churchyard, a local bylaw.
5.
5 weeks of grimmest walking.
We have washed through the mud in mid-Grimsby where we were, was no want of mud and mire.
6.
1086. Grimsby's entry into the Domesday Book.
7.
1878. Grimsby Town Football Club is founded.
8.
1848. The railway reached the docks.
St James Church dates back to the 12th century, when a religious building that stood on the site came into the ownership of the Bishop of Lincoln. The following years witnessed many renovations and developments. A central tower was added in 1365, and in 1585 St James became the parish church of Grimsby. It was granted minster status in 2010 and today ministers to the needs of its religious congregation and the pastoral needs of the wider community. In Minster, ministering, singing, ringing, ding-dong wedding.
My parents' wedding took place on the 19th of April 1944. Various colleagues from the dairy provided a guard of honour with milk bottles.
In remembrance, in peace, in pieces, bombing.
My earliest memory is my mum taking me to see the church the morning after the bombing.
Sheltering, learning, leaning, rising, squint and see, shifting, rebuilding shape, building, coming, come in.
To stoic men and women who braced each day, clad in steel-capped wooden clogs with newspapers stuffed into woolen socks, on the finger-numbing pneumonia jetty. The dock tower, a million bricks reaching out to welcome us home and remind us to be proud of this unpretentious Lincolnshire town and not let anyone bring it down. Just so you know, the name's Grimsby. Great Grimsby.
The St James Square Heritage Soundscape is a Hammond House production for North East Lincolnshire Council. It features the voices of Paula Denton, Molly Charnley, Elise Ballard and Ted Stanley. Content was supplied by Our Big Picture, the Heritage Channel and Clee TV. It included extracts from the poetry of Trevor Harris, Adrian Riley, Henry Kipson, Tim Aikborn, Andrew Leake, Maria Garner, Mary Lee, Dylan Thomas, Gordon Wilson and Caroline Beeston Spence. Gregorian chants and incidental music by Kevin MacLeod and Noel Malika. The production director was Alex Thompson. The Hungry Tide was written by Ted Stanley and produced and performed by Amy Naylor.
The dawning light is breaking now as she wakes to find him gone, and hears the tolling of the bell and the swirling seagull's song. To the harbour fast she runs, down to the cold quayside, to find his is the only boat to take the turning tide. The men who gather on the dock do shake their heads and say, it is a brave and foolish man who takes to see this day. It ebbs and flows as the bell it tolls, and the sailor's time must bide. But those in need and take no heed must face the hungry tide. The Molly G, she rides the surf onto the ocean swell, her crimson sail lost in the fret and the howling gale from hell. The waves they crash on Molly's bow, the wind howls in the rigging, as he trims the sail and sets a course to seek the shoals of herring. For 5 days she waits for him, and 5 days more to see the boats come in to land their catch, but not the Molly G. She fears the sea fret rising, the crimson sail to hide. She listens for the bell to ring at the turning of the tide. It ebbs and flows as the bell it tolls its message far and wide, but still she waits by the quayside gate to greet the hungry tide. Now a lonely year has passed as she treads the golden sand, and sees amidst the dense sea fret the crimson sail expand. The water swirls around her feet as she looks upon the town. She's donned her Sunday bonnet and she wears her wedding gown. And as the ebb begins to flow, her arms she opens wide and gives a smile before she turns to face the hungry tide. It ebbs and flows as the chimes they toll their message far and wide. So listen well to the warning bell or face the hungry tide. It ebbs and flows as the chimes they toll their message far and wide. So listen well to the warning